Minasan konnichiwa. Hello everyone, welcome to Learning Japanese with Marcelo. And this lesson we will be learning Japanese with the series, Netflix series Alice in Borderland, okay? Imawa no kuni no arisu. So on my last video actually I explained to you guys why I believe that TV shows are very helpful for people who are learning languages, and I explain in details why I thought that this TV show in particular it's awesome, and it's gonna help you guys to actually learn Japanese as well. So this lesson, don't worry, no spoilers, okay? But I will be just kind of showing you guys how smart this TV show is, and because they try to connect this story with the story of Alice in Wonderland, right? So basically, I will tell you who some of the main characters in the show represents in the story of Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so let's have a look. So first of all, about the name of the series is Alice in Borderland, right? Which you can see here, it's very similar. Basically, it's just one word different from Alice in Wonderland, right? And on my last video, if you guys wanna know a little bit more in detail, you can go back and watch it. Just kind of became a very long video. It was like 30 minutes because I was going through a lot of details. No spoiler though, so you can watch, with no worries. But anyway, I explained on the video that I didn't really like this translation in English because I thought that the real meaning in Japanese kind of got lost in translation. Okay, because imawa actually means like at the edge of dying. When you are between dying and you know like you're alive but almost dying. So that's kind of the meaning of imawa, which doesn't really pop for me in Borderland. Although in the story basically is like when they're playing games, they are trapped in a certain area that they are not allowed to leave. So if they leave, they will be eliminated. So that does kind of have the meaning of Borderland. But anyway, for details, just go back to the video and have a look at it. But here I'm just gonna focus on the similarity of Alice in Wonderland. As you can see in Japanese, Alice in Wonderland, it's called Fushigi no Kuni no Arisu. Fushigi means mysterious or strange, okay? Kuni means country. So Arisu is the pronunciation for Alice, okay? So it's Alice in the country of stranger things, so that being Alice in Wonderland. Now here, as you can see, they played like also like basically they just changed Fushigi for Imawa, right? So Imawa no kuni no Arisu. However, what is very clever of this show is that how they use, the Japanese language to play with the characters and make these connections that maybe you didn't realize until now. And I'm going to explain you how they did it in a very smart way. So for example, our main character here is Arisu, and Arisu actually is his last name, okay? And as you can see here is these two kanjis. This one is the Ari and this is Su, and it's pronounced Arisu, which is exactly the same pronunciation as Arisu when we pronounce, the English name in katakana in Japanese. So that's the connection, which makes absolutely sense because he's our main character, just as much Alice is the main character in her story. Now we have Usagi, which is her last name as well. Okay, the kanji of uchu, space, and then sa is like Sato-san, sa, the sa from Sato, which is a very common Japanese last name as well. And ki is the kanji of tree. Okay, I was sure that was this kanji when I first heard her last name. But anyway, Usagi, although it's her last name, is also the pronunciation is the same pronunciation as rabbit in Japanese, a Japanese word for rabbit is usagi. Okay, so again, they made a very clever connection, from the last name to a Japanese kanji, a Japanese word, into the katakana to connect to the character of the white rabbit. Okay, and then next we have Chishiya, which is also his last name. Okay, but it's a reference to the Cheshire cat, which in katakana is Chesha Neko. Neko is cat. So as you can hear, Chesha sounds very similar to Chishiya, right? So that's how they made the connection there. And then we got Queena, okay, Queena, which is also her last name, and this is a reference to the Queen of Hearts, which is the Jo, because Queena, the sound of Queena reminds us of the katakana. Let me write for you guys. The katakana queen, okay, queen, which would be the Japanese pronunciation for the word queen. Okay, so again, queen, queena, right? So that's how they made the connection there. And then the last one we have is the Boshia, okay, who is actually his name is Takeru Dama. Okay, I don't think we actually heard his last name in the series, but I think Aguni calls him Takeru at some point, and he's a reference to the Mad Hatter in the story of Alice in Wonderland. Okay, so now let's learn a little Japanese words from that. So the first thing I want to mention to you guys, especially if you're new to Japanese, is that in Japanese, something that makes the language kind of different and unique is that we do not have the L pronunciation in Japanese. Okay, so that means that every word that has the L sound, that will be pronounced as the R sound. Okay, like my name is Marcelo. Okay, but lo is going to become ro, Marcelo. Okay, so if you have L on your name, give up and get used with the R sound. So a very nice example to give to you guys how this actually can create a little problem sometimes is because, for example, words that have the L and R, they actually can become the same word in Japanese. So for example, lice and rice, when you write them in Japanese, they will be both written as raisu. Okay, so that being said, you do need to pay attention at the sentence, the context, in order to understand which one you are talking about. Okay. Now, usagi, I told you, is a reference to the bunny, to the rabbit, white rabbit, because this is the kanji of rabbit. Okay, usagi. So it's the same pronunciation as you can see, but this is the kanji of usagi. This is just a last name. Chishiya. So Chishiya is the kanji of ya, which represents like a store or a market, and chishi is like vegetable, lettuce. Actually, if you think of chisa, which is this kanji, is lettuce. Okay, which is also an interesting word for you guys to learn, because as I mentioned with the L and R, lettuce is a word with L, but in Japanese became re, retasu. So actually, I think we use more retasu than chisa in Japan. Okay, and fun fact is that a lot of Japanese people, when they start learning English, what they do is that they will try to write English from their katakana word vocabulary. So many people would write this word with the R. Okay, and that's when they realize for the first time that's actually not an R word, but an L word. And that's really interesting, to see the other process. So if you ever go teaching in Japan, for example, that's a problem that you will face with your students. Next one, guys, Kuina. So Kuina is her last name. However, Kuina is a word for this bird here. Let me make it bigger for you guys. So if you look at the kanji, this kanji here is niwatori, which is like chicken. Okay, so it's like a water chicken. I don't know if you guys know it. I've never seen it, but this is what a kuina looks like. Okay, and of course, niwatori is the chicken that we all know. And when you guys go eat in Japan, you probably will see use this kanji. Okay, niwatori. Okay, now last one. Let's learn some words from Boshia. So I mentioned already from Chishiya that ya is the word that represents market or store or business. But interesting is that, for example, if you connect them to a noun, then you will get that store. So for example, boshi means hat. So boshia means a hat store or a hat shop. So actually, you could add the san to make boshia-san, to make the hatter, the person. Okay, but also it could mean the place itself. So like honya is like bookstore, right? So we also say honya-san, honya-san ikimasu. Ne? I'm gonna go to the bookstore. And then bento is lunchbox, so bento ya. Ne? And then this one is a little bit different because it doesn't really have that meaning of store or market that I told you, but it's a very important vocabulary, so please remember heya. Okay, heya means just room, which is usually your room, like your bedroom. We say jibun no heya, but also could mean like a space, like a meeting room, that kind of room. Okay. But in a house, it's not like the living room, because the living room in Japanese we will call ribingo, which comes from the living room, English word. And again, as you can see, the L becomes R. Okay, so that's it, everybody, for this lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned something. Okay, and again, if you haven't seen Alice in Borderland yet, go to Netflix. I'm gonna leave the trailer link below, and you guys can check it out. But I really recommend it. Okay, それではまた。バイバイ。